Now I'd like to introduce the panelists. We have Ivy Tan from ThoughtFull. She'll be moderating the discussion. And our speakers are Avis Ng from Rekindle Therapy and Louis Chen from the Malaysia Welfare Society. All right. Hi, Ivy.
Hi, Darren. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for coming. The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Co-labs, for having this dialogue today. So good afternoon, everyone. To all our viewers who are joining us here today. Again, my name is Ivy. I'm the head of counseling at ThoughtFull. So it's my pleasure to help moderate the discussion on, nurturing relationships in this new normal. So we've got awesome panel speakers today who are going to be sharing about perspective of managing relationships, throughout the whole MCO and post-MCO. And this is going to help us to share some light as to how can we better foster healthier relationships. So a little bit about, should I just do a little bit intro about our speakers here for just a couple of minutes? Maybe Avis, you would like to share a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how have you been managing? Yeah.
Hi. Okay, thank you, Ivy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Avis here. Good to be on and live show here with everyone of you. So my name is Avis. I'm from Rekindle Therapy. I'm one of the licensed counselor. Well, basically, besides being a counselor, I also do community work with youths and also with other NGOs. So basically, how did I manage? Well, it was, I would say, a journey for me. Even though I'm a mental health professional myself, it was struggling. I was struggling, especially in the beginning of the week, I would say. I have a husband and I have a toddler of 3-year-old. So we were just cooked up and suddenly, all right, it's just us three. We thought that, hey, this would be easy, easy peasy. Nobody needs to go to work. There's no daycare. It should be easy. But lo and behold, there were a lot of struggles myself. And I would like to share some as well for today. So that's it.
Wow. Well, since there's a lot of things that's going on in your household and even for your profession yourself, well, we'd love to hear some of your insights and your sharings as well today. So over to Louis, how have you been in terms of your own work and as well as managing the whole transition throughout this MCO? Oh, Louis, you're muted. Okay, great.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
okay.
Awesome.
Hi, Ivy. Thank you for letting me know I'm muted.
Cool.
So I'm actually previously working in Malaysia Health Welfare Society. Currently, I'm on my own doing part-time. On the day, I'm actually in a corporate, in a finance company. So finance company, we're basically still working. It's a challenge for us, where things are changing differently, people are behaving differently. Then it's even though I'm doing part-times, and then there's a lot of changes. It's very overwhelming with us. With me, there's a lot of changes, then have to deal with it. So these 3 months can come to say 4 months, right? About 4 months of changes has been quite overwhelming. So perhaps later I can share about my experience during this discussion.
Wow, that's indeed. Yeah, I think all of us, even myself, also have experienced these changes. I think we're all human at the end of the day. These changes, we're not invincible. We experience the stress, we experience a lot of things, mixed emotions, right, about this whole pandemic. And we are going to have every one of you present with us today to talk about myself as well. So yeah, going through a similar transition as everyone and both of you have shared. So lovely to have you guys today. So let's go on to, I guess, our first question for today. Actually, is very interesting. So as you all know, that many have experienced this sudden new life transition. In due to this global pandemic, and also the MCO, and now we are in recovery MCO. So couples, right, are suddenly forced to spend some time together for extended period of time. And then romantic couples also as well, you have this cabin fever. Spending too much time together, can lead to, brewing some tensions, some stressful situations. So how can, extended periods of time be problematic for couples? So perhaps, Avis, we'd like to hear from you how this would, how this would happen for couples. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Ivy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say if the extended lockdown and being a lot of time together, I would say it's really a 24 hours times the last 3 months. And before, it might be, your husband or your wife might probably at work. Your husband and wife might be in the salon or in their in-laws, and they're just might be experiencing it. I would say it will be a problem if the relationship foundation itself is shaky to begin with. Yeah. So imagine, I've also seen clients post the CMCO. So right now, when I've seen clients, a lot of them tell me, one of my couple clients, they told me and they said, I have actually contemplating it prior MCO. I knew that our relationship would not work out, and this whole MCO has just somehow solidified my decision. So I would say problems happen if prior to MCO your relationship hasn't been that strong. Okay, so this is one of the things that I've also encountered with some of my clients. One of the things they'll come in and tell me is there's no love anymore. Yeah, or they'll say we just have constant conflict during the MCO, and they'll say, this is a huge problem to my individual mental health. Why am I staying in this relationship? So this can be problematic for couples if their relationship is already struggling. Okay? But on the same note, I would say, even like for myself, I would probably rate my relationship, say 1 to 10. I'll probably rate 7.5 to 8. Yeah. So even though I would say B plus A, but it doesn't mean that it is an issue if we actually are able to solve it. So I would say problematic if your foundation is not there, and that is just compounding and compounded throughout the whole MCO.
Yeah, it sounds tough, huh? Like suddenly, all of a sudden, the couples are being brought into this unique situation where they don't normally see each other. They live together, but now everything revolves around at home. So there's lots of conflict or misunderstanding. Things that you never knew about each other happens all at the same time. So yeah, I like how you put it, Avis, that foundation is the key, essential to ensuring that a couple, can lead a healthier lifestyle together. So now that we have known, foundation is the key to the shaky, beginning of a relationship that may, be struggling during this time. We'd like to hear from Louise, maybe, as a consequently, so what can couples do actually to alleviate these problems? What can they do actually to help themselves? Yeah.
Thank you, Ivy. So when they have found, they say, Avis has shared foundations. When the couples have problems, they actually base on their foundations.
Yeah.
So what can they do is they need to first of all, they need to be aware of their own emotion first. So when they're aware, they need to accept it, that negative emotion is also part of our emotion that we need to embrace on. We recognize it, we embrace it, but we don't indulge in it. Which means after we give time for us to tell us, okay, now I'm feeling sad. Yes, you're feeling sad. So you give your time to experience this sadness, but you have to learn how to come out from it. You cannot always stay at the sad part. Then the second thing with your spouse, after you deal with yourself, you're aware of yourself. You have to set a healthy boundaries with your spouse, because now time you're seeing each other every day. So you need to set a time. Okay, this is the time that I will do my own things. I will do my work, and this is the time that I will be with you. Like we go out for work from 8 to 6 o'clock. So now you set the time. From 8 to 6 o'clock, I will have my work responsibility to do, and then then after that, we'll spend time together as family, because overall you are a couples, you are a family, yourself, you're a family's persons. So you need to set the times with the family, as well as we know that we still have our work responsibility. A lot of people are working from home, and it can be overwhelming, which means you're 24 hours working. Some of the people some of my clients have feedback to me, working from home actually make them 24 hours working. But you need to set this boundary. It's a new boundaries that we need to set for work-wise and for family-wise. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, that's, I think, great guidelines and principles to follow. I like how you mentioned that negative emotions, we have to embrace them. A lot of us sometimes, try to avoid these emotions. And I like how you put it in a way that we should embrace this and, sit with it and kind of understand where is this mixed emotion, difficult emotion coming from, and then communicate, right, through it. And by doing that in terms of allocating some boundary setting for self, for family, and just being kind to yourself to understand that this is a unique situation and everyone will have this kind of mixed emotion, right? So that we can actually, as partners, go through this together. So that's really, really helpful, Louis. So I think now that we know a little bit of how can couples actually, use these principles to navigate. So what about you, Avis? Do you have some of, some guidelines where couples can actually do as well on top of Avis's and Louisa's sharing?
Yeah, sure. Also, since we talked about earlier on when I talked about the foundation, which this is also tie into what we can do to elevate. So some of the foundation that I would like to tackle here is actually the negative interactional cycle.
I see.
Yeah. So when I say, what do you mean by relationship foundation? How do I assess? How do I rate my foundation? Okay, is to ask yourself, if you are married or maybe you are in a romantic relationship right now, I want you to assess yourself with me at this moment. How frequently you are caught up into a negative interaction cycle. What do you mean by negative interaction cycle? It means when you are in a conflict, you tend to blame each other and finding who's at fault. So example of my incident at home during MCO is, hey, why are you using the office space more than I do? Because the office space is where we have our own time and we can work without being interrupted by my daughter. Okay, so there's this argument here, like, hey, why are you spending so much time in the office whereby I need to spend time outside of the hallway with my daughter? Okay, so we can get into this small little arguments, but it's not about the amount of arguments that is going to affect our foundation. It's actually how you resolve the arguments. Okay, so now as you are hearing, I want you to rate, your relationship with me, 1 to 10. 10 is extremely well in solving conflicts. It can be heated arguments or it can be really trivial things. So, for example, if you're arguing with your partner in the morning over small things or chores or finances, were you able to solve it by the end of the day? Or do you keep it until the next day or next month? Okay, so if you are able to solve it in the day itself, then I would say your foundation is pretty strong. Yeah, because you handle the conflict, you address it immediately before you go to sleep. Okay, but if you delay it the next day or next month, or probably you didn't bring it up ever again, then these are some baggages, some emotional baggages that will come out in heated arguments again. And this is called, I would say, the culprit of the relationship. When you bring back past incidents, and then your partner will be, what? You're thinking about that? That was like 2 years ago. So how to elevate this problem is really cut those negative interaction cycles, okay, by building the emotional love bank. So I want to give an analogy of each one of us, okay, you, your partner, even your family members. Yeah, everyone has an emotional bank account. Okay, so sometimes when we criticize our partner or when we blame him or her for being lazy or not taking initiative or for having that tone when you're conversing with us, then you're criticizing them. It means you are crediting their love bank. Yeah. So the more you put down your partner, you are crediting the love bank account. Okay, so it's depleting. All right. So how can we at least build a secure relationship? Is depositing positive emotions to your partner's love bank. So this is mutual. It's not just one person's responsibility. It's both parties. Okay. So the more I deposit positive interaction like caring, appreciation, gratitude, or sometimes it's just validating your partner's effort. This is building up their emotional love bank. So this is very simple. It's of course easier said than done. Yeah. But if your relationship is started off with pretty shaky and you can't even say something good about your partner, then it's also a red flag. Then you know that, hey, we need to do something. It's not my fault. It's not your fault. Okay. It's not about your partner's problem or my problem. It's actually the negative interaction cycle that you are looped into, blaming each other. Okay, so I'm just going to stop here. I think
Yeah. Well, no problem. I think that's really helpful, Avis, because I think you anecdotally used something that we are very familiar with, which is the bank account, right? So I like how you put it where, your bank account is not just for money, but emotionally you have account too, especially when you're working together as partners. You need to deposit love. I mean, love is not just, you have to do, like you mentioned, validation, interaction, and be noticing that these are positive interaction to depositing into the account, and also be very clearly mindful about what you credit into your account, right? So when you have too much negative in your account, an emotional account, then things, when you mentioned foundation, is going to start wearing off, right? I like how you put that in as well. And another point you mentioned was just to notice this negative communication cycle, right? That's very important because it can become a habitual, right? You can do the self-blame game, and then eventually you carry that over if you're not able to resolve it. And I like how you put it in a way that how, in a scale of 1 to 10, can you complete that is there a resolution during the day, or is that carried throughout 2 weeks or months? And that's really, when you bring that back up, it's something that's really resentment in the couple themselves, right? So I think having clear communication and understanding your negative interaction cycle really helps to alleviate all these uncertainties for couples, especially during this tough time. So yeah, and thank you for sharing that. I think this emotional love bank account, I think for all of you who are joining us here, if you do have any questions, you can hold on to that. We do have a Q&A question. If you'd like to learn more about this emotional bank account, Avis would be more than happy to share later on during our Q&A section, right? So I think, just like how Louise also mentioned, looking at negative emotions and embracing them, I like how both of you also share that, it's not just only emotions, but interaction cycles are as important as making sure that you foster healthy relationship. So so when we look at this different perspective on the flip side, so apart from spending too much time together, so other conflicts would have also arise during this quarantine MCO period, so which have become very significant for couples to actually want to move forward now that we know that. So what are some other issues also have surfaced since this pandemic that both of you have encountered in your works or in your sessions in therapy? So maybe perhaps maybe Louise or Avis, would you like to Avis, would you like to share a little bit about what kind of other issues may have surfaced as well?
Sure. So I'm going to talk a little bit more non-traditional couple setting. Okay, we're looking at, say, cohabitation for not limited to monogamous relationships, so as the polyamorous relationship, which is also, I would say, not really tapped into. I would say some of their challenges, if, for example, for a polyamory relationship, would be if they are trapped. Probably there are 3 of them in the relationship. Probably 2 of them are trapped. Not to say trapped, they are just in the CMCO period, and one of them is probably left out in a hometown or somewhere else. So this can actually cause a lot of distress. It will be a lot of struggles as well because they are not together. Because I would see them as a one unit, just like how marriage couple or romantic couple are together. They are one unit. So I would say right now, if they are separated, they are not actually in one unit. So what kind of challenges? Of course, the challenges would be example like all other relationships that you are into, okay, of the intimacy issues will probably arise, okay, challenges such as boundaries will arise, and maybe a little bit on the trust part. If one of your partner is away and far away, maybe they have other needs, which will be a big challenge. Yeah.
Indeed.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so in situations like that, I would say the most important is building that emotional safety. Physically, they may be far away, okay, but do they have emotional connection in place? Okay, are they able to build this emotional safety, even though physical intimacy or physical proximity is not there? Okay? So, of course, right now with technology and all this hi-fi, gadgets, they can somehow bring people together. So, if they do face a challenge, I would say the challenge is, do they have intellectual intimacy? There's so many other ways of intimacy besides physical. It's intellectual, it's emotional, sometimes it's a psychological intimacy. And they share that. That can actually either strengthen, their unit, or sometimes it may backfire if they don't.
Yeah, that sounds like these are important traits for couples to have.
Of course.
Right? Especially, I mean, not just for the pandemic, but in general, these are important traits for couples to have. Yeah. I guess very, very good reminders for all of us here. Sometimes we get, taken, too long in a relationship. Sometimes we've forgotten, how to do that, right? It's good reminder. So, yeah, I think that's really interesting how, Avis, you brought up the fact that not just monogamous couples, but polyamorous couples also have their difficulties and challenges. In fact, I even read that there is this guy in Toronto, in Canada, who has 4 other, female partners who he calls them in life. And that actually is not only about intimacy. There is one partner who shares for adventurous activity. There's the other partner who shares more about emotional connection, So, and each partners are very differently feeding the emotional bank account of this person. So that's very true as how I'm looking at how both of you have shared like the foundational and emotional connection and safety. So this is true. It's happening right now for people who do have that situation and they're kind of stuck within their own, compound. They're not able to, extend to the care, the love. So what about, I'm just also curious, maybe, Louise, you can also jump in on this question. So what would be, some of the other challenges that may surface as well that you've noticed, throughout your work as well? Yeah.
So thank you, Avis, for sharing just now, and thank you, Ivy. So Avis has shown us that our social distancing is actually not social disconnecting. We need to wisely use our devices, IT, to connect with one another, which need mindful actions. So another thing that I find, during this MCO is the rise of pregnancy, which is unplanned. So, and with this rise of unplanned pregnancy, of course, what is the first, because we talk about emotional and mental health over here, so what I want to address is, during this unplanned pregnancy, the first thing that rises is you might have shock, you might be angry, you might even have fear, because you say, I didn't plan for this thing, and this thing just comes suddenly. And it's actually okay, even though for planned pregnancy, you will have shock too, because you can't really plan pregnancy. Even though you want to plan, it's very hard to plan for some people. So, like I said just now, embrace it, but you don't indulge in it. Embrace your fear, accept that you are in shock, accept that this is new for you. Okay, then you slowly come out from it, and you have your baby, you know that you are pregnant today. Your baby wouldn't come out tomorrow. You got 9 months actually to prepare everything. So take this 9 months time to accept that you are pregnant. Take this 9 months time to prepare. And the next thing that you concern a lot is the money. Okay, children actually will you can raise children in different ways. You don't need a luxurious baby's product to raise your children. Of course, if you can, of course, we want to give the best to our child. But if you can, what we can do, we try our best to help. That's the best thing that our child can receive, and they will be very happy. And the gift for our children is our time actually, and our relationship with them. So this is the part of unplanned pregnancy. The second things that might surface during this pandemic is the fear of losing a job, or some people might lose a job already. So many people are navigating between unemployment. So remember, this does not only affect you. many has been affected by this pandemic. So you, like what I said, you will definitely feel discouragement. You will definitely feel unmotivated, sad, and even loss of purpose. Okay, but losing a job doesn't mean that you are a loser. You just lose a job and you can restart the whole thing. Okay, so you need to accept that, okay, I am temporarily losing a job, but you set a time for you to be sad, set a time limit, okay, accept it, and then you have to rise up, and get started again. So, and then another thing is, getting a job is actually not really tough. The idea is getting the ideal job. So you might not be able to get an ideal job right now, but if you really need a job, you can just jump into a temporary job, or then slowly find another job if getting a job is really your first concern. If you can wait, you can slowly take your times to upgrade yourself, your skill, then you will definitely go to another better place. So you have to give credit to yourself for all past success that you have. Then don't lose hope. So, and then another thing is, a lot of things that have for me that affected me is the pausing of future planning. For me myself, I'm actually planning my wedding in November.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this has affected me because I don't know whether I can invite my guests, even though our government actually loosened the SOP that they allow 250 people to attend the wedding. But there's a lot of concern whether old people, my elderly can come or not, those above 70 or below than 12 years old. There's a lot of uncertainties. So pausing of this engagement, because it's very exciting engagement, right? My wedding, I feel very excited. You don't be anxious about this thing. First of all, you just need to postpone. But most importantly, you have to talk to your spouse, your partner about this thing. Then both of you have to come to the same page. Like for example, me and my fiancé, we actually talked about it. Then what we do is, we want our wedding, we still continue to have the date that we want, but probably we might stop or postpone our dinner because we are not sure about the SOP and everything. Or you can, both of you can discuss that you want to postpone the whole dinner. It depends on you. Remember, the wedding is just a wedding. The most importantly, like what we mentioned here, is your marriage. How grand, how big, how small of your wedding doesn't really affect your marriage. How you deposit your emotion banks, how you manage your relationship is the most important part. So you have to communicate with your spouse, with your partner, so that you can come to the same page, even postpone of your future engagement.
Yeah, wow, thank you for sharing that, Avis. I mean, like everyone else, I think, wow, you were also stuck for the couples who are, have all these plans to get married, and everything has to put on hold. That must be really difficult. But I'm glad to hear that you have established a communication with your fiance, where you mentioned that you guys really do communicate and manage the expectation, right? You guys sort of shared like what marriage means to you both, and then you guys sort of carry out the decision. You take action and decide what to do after that. So you mentioned not to dwell on it so long, but what can we do right after?
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
So I have a quick question about the people, unfortunately some of us folks here may have lost jobs during the pandemic situation. So if we do have partners who actually do encounter this situation, who have lost their job, how can we support our partners? I mean, what would there be a more mindful way to approach this topic with our partners? They are stressed out and we want to be supportive and caring. How can we go about, reaching out to them? Yeah.
It depends on the interaction between the couples. Some of the couples might want to talk about it. Okay. Then and indeed you have to spend time to talk about it, because previously maybe there's two incomes coming in, and now you depend on one income. So whether or not you want or don't want to talk about it, someday you still have to talk about it. Okay, but you have to remember the other party is just lose a job, so you might want to give time for him to settle himself, maybe 1 or 2 days, or sometime 1 week. Then after that, you all be very tactful, bringing up these questions. Yeah. Then the other party, what I always believe is, you can only help those that want to be helped, and those people who are affected is no one can help you to stand up except yourself. So you have to be mindful that, okay, I'm feeling sad, I lose a job, okay, I will be sad, and then I can communicate, I can bring, even me who lost a job can bring this issue out myself. Okay, I lose my job, I'm feeling sad right now. Maybe these 2 days I need some time for myself to digest this emotion. So we will talk about it maybe 2 days later when I'm more ready about it. You still have to give time to digest the whole emotion. Don't jump into decision directly. Yeah, because this is a shock for everyone. You're shocked for your spouse, you're shocked for the affected person. So you need to digest this thing. After that, you bring out and talk about it. Acting on the emotion doesn't mean that abusing the emotion, like what we talk about, anger management and everything. There's a part of negative emotion management. So you have to talk about it, but you don't abuse it. Because I'm sad, I'm do something that is hurting our relationship. Then this is called abusing the emotion. It's not expressing the emotion, it's abusing the emotion. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think that's really good point that you've just highlighted that to us, Louise. The point where you mentioned that at the end of the day, despite you're not able to do your wedding engagement, despite the fact that you actually lost a job, things happen, but we shouldn't just dwell on it, but take some time to process it. But at the end of the day, we have to communicate that expectation, what we want, and not take it as abusing that relationship. The communication needs to be seen as expressive, right? In a way that our partners feel that they're being heard, they're being noted about how you feel, and what kind of actions can they help you move forward. Well, that's really, really good insights to share. So I think what my takeaway from this is, like, really there's a lot of things are uncertainties in our life. It's how we manage, right? How we sort of embrace it. I like how you put it, embrace it, accept it, and adapt. So we have to take proaction to it, and thinking in the mind that we have support from our partners. So that helps to lighten things up and carry the conversation through. So that's very interesting. So another point that I would also like to, it also came out in a conversation throughout this couple of months on, there's a spike in, couples who did well, they try to mitigate the situation, but there's also couples who don't really do well, and there are cases where, spike in domestic violences, so this is nothing new, and we've saw and heard this over the views. Cases has come up. So, what are your thoughts about, on this, where, some have reported drops in calls, some have reported spike in calls. So there's also, affecting these victims in how can they overcome the situation. To your knowledge, maybe you can elaborate, Avis. Maybe you can start with, like, what can we do, and is there a reason why the increase? Yeah.
Right. Of course, there are a mixture of increased calls and decreased calls as well. I would say increase is because when it doesn't need to be women, I would say, over here. It can be male or female experiencing this aggression or this domestic violence during this whole MCO period. Okay, so what does this happen? I would say it's because, again, back to the relationship.
Okay.
If the relationship itself, one of the partners or both partners is engaged in this, we call it a codependent relationship. What does codependence mean? Codependent means is I hate you, or I don't like you, or I don't love you anymore, but I can't live without you. Okay, so it's like a really strong attachment, but this attachment somehow is toxic. Okay, and it's really hard to break away, and sometimes you would usually end up in violence, domestic violence, and this domestic violence doesn't end one time. Okay, of course there are a mixture of calls. Sometimes the calls are, okay, the first time my wife or my husband hit me, it was bloody all over, and it's just my first time. Okay, so that can be a long-seated bitterness that somehow blew up during the MCO. And there are other type of domestic violence where it was perpetuating. It's been consistent for months or years. Okay, and during the whole MCO, it gotten worse. Yeah, so callers can be of a different type. Yeah, so it depends on the whole situation. Okay, if anyone, okay, it doesn't mean that if it's one time, should I just forgive or should I just brush it off? I would say no, because it's a red flag. Yeah. Or sometimes I've heard of clients would say to me that only when my husband is drunk, then that would happen. During the day, he's a fantastic father. He loves me a lot. So this is called a codependent relationship, where they would just highlight the positive and dismiss or sweep the huge issue of domestic violence under the rug.
Wow. Okay.
So just to reach out, yeah, be aware that, hey, this is something not shameful, especially for the males. Yeah, it's not something you need to be shameful about to get help. I personally have seen a male client who actually disclosed that to me, and I would say, wow, this must be really painful for you. Yeah, even though you may be stronger physically, but doesn't mean emotionally you are as strong. Yeah, emotionally we all can be scarred. Physically, maybe it's just a slap on the face or maybe it's just a pinch. Yeah, the scars may not be there, but emotional scars last. Time, especially in romantic relationships.
Yeah, I think that's really a good point that you pointed out. I think when most people think about domestic violence, or think about abuse, the mind will kind of just jump right into women, right? But we tend to forget that men is also part of this statistic. They do experience this, and oftentimes, like you mentioned, they keep quiet, right? Maybe because of the stigma, and it's very hard for them to report that. So I also read that the Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development, they also have reported that actually 30% of this abuse involve male victims. And this is in Malaysia, and it's truly very surprising to me because, a lot of times we heard about it, but we never really go and pick up the numbers. But it is there. The statistics are there, and surprisingly, I saw that it's most of them aged 60 years or older as well. So again, this also is a spectrum. You are not, discounted whether or not your age, but it happens to men, right? So, and you talk about abusive relationship, it's also men, like you mentioned, emotionally, psychologically, they're being affected. It's unlike where physically, I guess, because it can be seen, but sometimes when it's hard to be seen is when it's really affecting them mental health wise, right? And it's really hard. So I think, I sincerely appreciate you bringing up the fact that we shouldn't forget that the men out there they are also part of this victims of domestic violence as well. So for those of you who know of or would like to know where to get resources, so do look up Talian Kasih. Talian Kasih is one of the resources that we provided by our government. 15999, that's their number. And also for those of you who are aware, we do have Women's Aid Organization, WAO, where you can actually seek resources, shelter homes for women as well and children, and also Befrienders. So Befrienders numbers are 24 hours. So I believe the numbers are on the text box right now. Those of you who know of, or if you heard of neighbors, right? If this is the time, I think, where we should actually be proactively taking care of each other. Kita jaga kita, right? And we hear these kind of noises and sounds coming up from them. And I think just taking our role to the proactive extent to ensure that everyone is being taken care of in case of anything that could happen, right? So thank you for sharing that on a little bit insights to men and part of the domestic violence statistic as well. So I'm also curious, maybe Louis, do you think you also have encountered similarly, like men is also sometimes appeared in some of the cases that you worked in as well?
For me, mostly women's. Because I work in JKM. Other than you can contact Talian Kasih and everything, you can actually approach JKM if you have encountered such situations. So you can actually contact your nearby JKM centers. Each district will have their nearest JKM centers that you can contact on. You can go and Google JKM. then you can fly JKM Selangor, JKM Kuala Lumpur. They do have departments that take care of domestic violences. Yeah,
Okay.
which I think is not a lot of people are aware of. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you so much for these resources. I think now that you've mentioned, the JKM is also one of a very good, useful resource that all of us can actually access as well, regardless to anything I think concerning with children, family, domestic occurrences, violences. Yes, good to know that. And so like that brings me to the next sort of like I'm also very curious, because at the end of the day we have couples who are making it, we have couples who are struggling, we also have couples who are just saying, let's call it quits. I'm totally done already. Like, I cannot deal with this anymore. So the word divorce is up in the conversation. You know, when we talk about let's communicate this, there's the word divorce. It's being tossed around. So, there have been reports there's increased rate in China, and globally this divorce inquiries is happening throughout the quarantine period. So do you think, maybe Avis, if you would like to answer, do you think these divorce requests maybe impulsive, because it is they have cabin fever and things like that, and what kind of advice or guidelines or you could share for couples who are now contemplating divorce or going into the conversation already?
Right. I've actually seen a couple of couple clients actually came to me post MCO, and they were pretty I wouldn't say two sides of the story. It's just one. Sometimes it's just one party wanting out. Okay? So especially during MCO, when a lot of matters has been discussed, and probably they have been on this negative interaction cycle for the whole 2-3 months. Of course, people wouldn't want to go on again. Yeah, they would say, "Hey, I just want quit." So when you come to the terms impulsive, impulsive in itself, it means you want to make a decision out of a certain heightened emotion. Okay, so that's what impulsive means. So I'm feeling so angry and so fed up, and I'm just end of my straw. I want it quit, right? So of course, one of the things that I do advise clients or even my friends in general, make decision when you are calm. Yeah, make decision when you know that I've considered all factors and I've tried and do my best. So usually when I see my couples sharing that they are contemplating divorce at this time, first thing I would say is, you are so courageous and brave to come to see me, to talk about this before straight going to the lawyers. You actually considered to work things out and see if there's any leeway. Yeah. So before I would say whether they should contemplate or they should go straight to the lawyers or go to the counselor, which one you should go, right? I would say it's really the nature of the relationship. Okay. Maybe what sparked the D word was prolonged negative interaction cycle. Okay, for years, my emotional bank account has been so low. Okay, I believe it's both partners. Yeah, bank account has been so low for years. Maybe what they need is to learn how to deposit positive emotions. Maybe they couldn't do that. Maybe somehow there were some hurts and wounds in the past that restrict them from depositing positive emotion. So these are some things that we can learn. These are some things that we can actually prevent and put it into the relationship again. Because no one wants to get married to divorce. Yeah, nobody. Okay? So you have invested not only the first year of marriage, if you have invested years, in property and your emotional investment and all those kind of things, you may be contemplating, it may be impulsive to think that I just want out. Okay, so make decisions, crucial decisions, when you are calm. Yeah, when you have the inner peace. Okay, so sometimes it's just to have a chat with counselor, or sometimes it's just to have a chat with your friends to say, do you think this is a good decision? Do you think, am I too impulsive? Being aware that you're impulsive, it is a good step as well. It's a good awareness. Hey, maybe I'm too impulsive. All right. So, however, there are other group of couples that probably during MCO, they found out a very distressing insight. Maybe during the MCO, they read their partner's email or text, and then I found that you are actually having extramarital affairs all this while. That is sort of like, that is my end ticket, and I would just go straight to the lawyers to file a divorce. Okay, would that be impulsive? I would say same thing, yeah, it's emotionally charged. Of course, that news is horrendous. Okay, that news is heartbreaking, and you turn your world upside down. It does. Okay, so sometimes it's just to cool down and say, hey, what can I do? Is really the divorce is the only answer. Because a lot of trained couple counselors do see couples with extramarital affair, and we see a very good rate of recovery. Yeah. Sometimes, yes, extramarital affair is not the issue. It's not the third party issue. It's actually, again, the relationship. So it's just like, if you have everything you can find in the relationship, you wouldn't want to find somewhere else.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe initially your marriage already has some little loopholes. Maybe there are some conflicts which have not been dealt with. Okay? Because it's so, I would say because it's hidden under the rug for such a long time, or your emotional bank account is so low all the time, you think that it will not go up again. Okay, but actually we can. Yeah. And of course, couples do feel hopeless at this time. Okay, who really contemplate divorce, they do feel hopeless. Hopeless because they have exhausted their own resources. But it doesn't mean the resources outside is exhausted yet. Okay, maybe you and your partner resources is already exhausted, and you feel hopeless. Yeah. So sometimes it's just to get support, to see a counselor, and to see, hey, do I have other resources? Yes, the community is your resources. Maybe your family members can be your resources. Right? So don't just feel that you're just in a bubble. Because MCO is like you're in a bubble, and you say, how can I continue for the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think that's really a good point where you just shared, Avis, that again, because when we're in this situation, we can't really think away far from, we are so blind spot with the impulsiveness, the emotion, especially when you brought up 2 points where if the relationship is already broken down, a little bit foundation is not there, then of course when you're confined and you have kids or, more situations come up, so then you have that develop that impulsiveness. You also have couples who already have pre-existing, right, situations. This will also trigger to using the D word in the conversation as well. But again, the infidelity issues that you may find, because you have more time spending at home. So these are also possibilities where, like you said, take a step back, kind of just take the calm step and just get a good frame of mind to make more informed decisions, right? To reach out to your close support network, and especially, like you said, trusted family, friend members, and then who to look for, right? Once you need to kind of also source some advice or guidance. Would it be the counselors? Would it be like the lawyers? Because you're so emotionally still so affected because you want to, emotionally want to resolve this, but don't really know how to do it. So I think reaching out to people that is right, and also I think checking perspective, like you said. So I think this is very, very true that because pandemic definitely has been a catalyst, right, for change in many areas of people's life. A lot of things, it's testing times for relationship as well. So definitely good sharing from your end to understand that no one really wants to get married to be divorced. So at the end of the day, I think, like you said, marriage is definitely something, you want to work and hone the skills. You mentioned that to work on the skills to reach out to your emotional bank account, right? Put in more positive, look at the negative, and I think maybe Avis can also share on the other side of it that being quarantined, right, it's not entirely all doom and gloom. So on the other flip side, being quarantined can also help to provide some kind of couples rekindling. Maybe in your way, what kind of things that couples can actually do to help nurture their relationship to blossom during this time. So for Louis,
Yes.
sorry, what can couples do in terms of helping the relationship to nurture and blossom?
Okay, we heard about the very famous words is it takes two to tango, right? Yes, marriage also takes two to tango. You need two to work hard, not only one side to work hard, like Avis said. When there is a problem, when some affair happens, it's actually not one party, it's actually two parties in the marriage that has some problems. So when you are not satisfied, it's not right to say because you in the current marriage you are not satisfied, then you go out to find a second source of satisfaction. We are not saying that it's right, but you have to, both parties have to, analyze your marriage, your relationship, why is such thing happen, and then stop blaming each other, pointing fingers that we human nature likes to do. Oh, you are at fault. Stop finding fault at each other. But we have to analyze what is something that we do that making the relationship is not working out. So how can we do this is in our relationship we have to talk a lot. We have to communicate a lot. And communicate doesn't mean that talk only. Communicate means that you talk and you also need to listen. A lot of people talk only, but they don't listen. Listening is very, very important, which we counselor, we know, right? We listened a lot. Then we helped you to analyze what you have talked. So in the relationship, you don't only need to talk, but you have to listen. Communicate is two-way. Communication is two-way. If communication happens one way, it's called informing. It's not called there's not communication. It's called informings only. So with this, you have to communicate with your spouse when something arises, whether it's comfortable, some issues that is comfortable or it's not comfortable. You have to communicate. And then another thing is when like what Avis said, when you have issues, you have to try to solve it before the day. Okay, finish before the day. And sometimes some issue need extended time, right? So at the end of the day, you communicate, and it's actually normal and it's actually okay to agree not to agree on something, and we bring out the second time. When time is better, we find another time that is better to bring this out again. So you can solve it the other time. But both of you have to agree not to agree on this issue. You understand what I mean? Yeah. So it's pretty tricky on this way. Yeah, because some of the thing we can agree the same page very quickly, but in reality we also have to understand that some of the thing might be very hard for us to come into the same page. So how do we deal with it is to agree not to agree on this thing. Then it's settled. Our emotional is not scarred. Our relationship is not scarred, and we bring to the next better time to bring it out to discuss again.
That's very true actually. Like sometimes maybe there will not be something that we totally agree, but we agree to disagree, and we give all our best to actively listen, right, to what our partners are sharing or trying to express, and we just take in note that, okay, I understand, therefore, but I'm not going to pursue. I agree to disagree with you. So at least that is being communicated. The partner is feeling heard, right? They've been heard, their voice is shared. So that gives also an opportunity for the couples to learn more about each other. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Louise, because I think that's very important. Sometimes we may talk too much, we don't listen enough. So I think the listening part is very important in relationship as well. So we are going to move to Q&A, but before we, there's a couple of questions that we have on the floor on the Q&A right now. But before we go there, so maybe in 30 seconds, both of you, what is the main message or takeaway you like to sort of, piece of advice that you would like the audience to have today? Yeah. Maybe with Avis, what would be your final piece of advice for the audience? Yeah.
So my final piece is take the time to build emotional safety. So the relationship needs to feel safe by, again, building and depositing emotional love back. So both feel safe enough to share the insecurities, share the challenges, and anything else.
Okay, got it. Emotional safety is the key. So look and make sure that you're aware of the interactions right? Mature aware of the emotions as well, right? And emotional bank account. Yeah. Okay. And Louis, what about you?
Mine is you need to work hard in your relationship, and you need to communicate with by saying I love you every day, by giving physical touch and everything. It's actually a bonus for your for your partner to know you without you saying it. But like I said, it's a bonus. You still need to communicate. Saying I love you every day, even though you know that your partner know that you love her or you love him, but saying it will make the other part feel happier and actually flourish your relationship with one another. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think the two sharings for both of us is also aligned with my sort of takeaway from the whole conversation that we had today is, we have to establish a new routine because after all, from all this transition, but we can start doing things together again and start to communicate again. And when we can communicate in forms of gestures, we can communicate in forms of listening, and there are many types of intimacy that we can actually do to enhance and nurture our relationship. So these are the important things that we can create together and look forward to, even though it could be something small, but it creates pockets of joy, right? So thank you so much. Now I'm going to pull up the Q&A questions that I have here on the screen. So I think, let me see. There is a question here on the top. Noor Shahira asks, can you advise how to face external stress, especially from families to couples who have to postpone their engagement?
Okay, there's a lot of people ask me, my friend who wedding have to postpone, and my clients sometimes. The most importantly is your spouse feeling, because wedding is two of you. The experience is actually two of you. Eventually, after some years back, your extended family will forget about your wedding. And I'm not sure. Is that true, Avis? You have been 3 years married, right? So, is any of your extended family remember your wedding?
I believe they just remember the food.
Yeah. So the whole experience itself is actually the couple. So as long as both of you are happy with it, whether postpone or not postpone it, the important thing is two of you, whether you're happy or you are not. So you have to responsible to the other part. And eventually, if you really have a perfect wedding, there is still someone to comment about it. There is still someone to comment about it, especially from our families, extended families. We cannot stop people. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's about the person how they define marriage among the two of them, and also managing the expectations.
Yes.
All right. Great. We also have another question. So I'm opening up to both of you, so whoever wants to take it. So Avis, if you are interested in this as well, or maybe Louis, this is from Catherine, should women control men's finances before marriage? Yeah, so take it away. If both of you also have some, sharing as well, so take it away, ladies. Yeah.
Okay, I think I can try to answer that. Should women take over the men's
finances before marriage? Yeah, here's the keyword, before marriage.
So it sounds like there's this kind of I would say a shared intimacy in finances, because before even you got married, you're actually quite well versed with your partner's finances. Well, I would say which is something that is quite open, and if your partner is, say, maybe it depends, your partner maybe is not really a financially savvy person, and he may feel a struggle to, say, maintain a healthy budget every year. And probably it was two of you made a decision that, hey, maybe I should dominate, or maybe the women or the wife should, take charge. I would think this is not a right or wrong thing. It's really depending on the couple itself. If the couple say, hey, maybe you're better in finances, you will help me to, say, stop splurging online or splurging anywhere, so I will allow you to manage. I would say the word control.
Okay.
Not control, but at least manage lah.
Yeah.
If you think the partner or if you are better at finances, managing would be a better word than control. Because I don't think anyone wants to be controlled in any ways.
True.
But not only finances, like the freedom to go here and there. I think
Yeah.
nobody wants to be
No.
controlled.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you say logistically, maybe you're an accountant and you're better at finances, all right, so you can take the lead to manage. But make sure you are open to discussion.
Mm.
Sure, you listen to your partner's, struggles, or listen to your partner's suggestions in finances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think that's just for me. Maybe Louise has other.
No, I do agree with Avis. So the whole thing is actually both of you have to communicate and come to the same agreement. If one say I want to manage your finances and one don't agree, at the end of the time it will hurt your relationship because one feel too controlling and the other one say no, I'm helping you to manage it. Yeah. So both of you have to talk to each other and then come to the same agreement on this matter. Because eventually you are two becoming one and two living as one. You have to happily deal with one another every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is an important thing.
Yeah, I think both of you made really good point as well. Like we don't want to use the word control, but at the end of the day, you need to bring this difficult topic into the conversation and have this difficult conversation to be transparent, to air it out, what's work and what doesn't work, right? So that everyone is in agreement. Moving forward, expectations are managed already in the relationship. So I hope, Catherine, that helps to give you some insights or approach to manage the finances before marriages. And we have time, be mindful about time. We have last question here from Jackie. Understand that sometimes one side of the partner has decided on a divorce decision, understanding that it is for the betterment of both as an individual. How would you advise on the person who made the decision, however being pulled back by guilt? Any ladies want to take on this question? So he's, I guess, coming from a place where this mixed feelings. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say when I see couples where one wants to be out and the other one is still, wants to be in. So of course the person who initiated out have this sense of guilt which comes along together because, it may seem that, hey, I'm the one who initiated it, I'm the one who kind of like solidify it, and that's how the whole relationship ended. You can be there, so I would somehow advise first, to really talk it out and know for yourself what was the reason, what is your reason for wanting out, and what have you tried, or what have he tried or she tried, okay, or what have both of you tried, and that you can sense that, hey, we can part well. Because even for my own center in Rekindle, we not only work with couples who want to be together, we also work with couples who want to part well. Yeah, so this is such an important piece here that you brought out, that we want to part well. And this parting well would also touch on the guilt that one party or both parties might be feeling. Because it will have a lot of repercussions, say, in the second marriage or so. And I want you to take it, don't take it lightly, this guilt, when probably you have already decided, okay, but how can you also facilitate parting well? Okay, so stick with that. Be aware of your emotional guilt. Okay, sometimes journaling and to write down and say, what is this guilt about? Maybe in 5 years' time, if I were to already divorce for 5 years, what will this guilt do? What will this guilt still gonna be there? Okay, so sometimes journaling it on your own and talking it out with your friends as well would be helpful to process that. So don't just sweep it under the rug. It's a very delicate question here. So thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. Louis, do you have anything to contribute to this?
Yeah, and I feel that parting out, a lot of people have actually not mentioned about how to part well. So remember that when you part well or during the parting process, the deep process, you need to think of recovering back. You have to give yourself time to recover back from this situation and think back. Writing down, we always encourage our clients to write down your emotions, whether you can use different way to journaling down. You can video yourself, you can write down, you can draw, whichever way. But why we ask clients to write it down or putting into some physical form is when you put everything down in the physical form, it's actually in a clearer sense and you can review back your emotion. So when you want to recover from this painful, it is for people, it's painful to part away. When you recover from this, you can actually understand and rebuild yourself again. And it will not become an emotional baggage when you eventually go into your second marriage or second relationship with other people. Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree with the both of you that sometimes people think that going into a marriage counseling or a couples counseling is to talk about parting, but sometimes it's actually to help to facilitate this in a very sensitive and very mindful way to ensure that everyone's needs are met. And how you mentioned it very, very gracefully, which is parting in a way that is actually well. We want to, even if things doesn't work out that way, we hope the best and we want to see how can we do that properly, right? And in a manner that is respectfully to each other. So thank you so much for taking the questions and I hope Jackie, you got your answers from our two expert panelists here. Hopefully all goes well in terms of the circumstances that you are in. And over back to you, Darren, from our four panelists here. Thank you, Avis and Louis, for your wonderful time and expert sharing with us today. So, Darren?
Yeah, I want to thank you, Ivy, too. You've done really beautifully, especially you summarizing our points. Yeah, thanks for making it so smooth.
Appreciate it. No worries.
Thank you so much, Ivy.
You're welcome. Okay. Are we? Yeah. Hi. Okay, Darren, you're back. Okay.
Darren, you're mute.
Can't hear you. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Thanks, panelists. That was a very insightful session. If any of the audience would like to personally reach out to the panelists, here are their names and email addresses. So do email them if you have any questions, any further questions. And thank you everyone for taking the time to join us today. We look forward to seeing you guys in our next session. So till then, take care and stay safe, everyone.
Take care. Thanks for joining, everyone. Stay
Bye,
safe.
everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
Thanks all.